So the history.
The history is when we were introduced to the real secret of how do we accept the fact that, yes, we're going to be depressed. Yes, we're going to be stigmatized. Yes, we're going to be murdered. Yes, we are going to be the subject of hate and discrimination. Yes, we're going to have our self-esteem taken away from us and abused. We're going to have to re-fight for our humanism as a human being and be able to look at these different elements of ourselves and bring them into ourselves and say, it's okay. Even if it's the most negative thing that we could have, in order for us to live with it, we have to give it permission to reside within ourselves. And the teaching of being a transgender person and exploring it to the point to understanding that, yes, we have these issues. Yes, there are professional psychotherapists, there's professional medical doctors, there's all kinds of support networks out there, but it's up to a person who is experiencing these things to seek them out. Nobody's going to come up to you and say that you are. You're the one that has to define yourself. Nobody can do it for you. And it's through that self-identifying that the balance, not the healing, the balance will come back into your life. And when nature and the balance and the beauty comes back into your life, other people will see it. You don't have to provide it to anybody. They will sense that beauty, and they will either inquire of it or they will just leave you alone because you represent something that's very scary to them. Not everybody is willing to accept themselves. It's much easier to be depressed. It's much easier to take a drug. It's much easier to blame somebody else for your condition. It's much easier to find that there is no acceptance because you cannot find a box that you belong into. And this community, or this word transgendered, when I wrote the definition, I started with the concept that it was an umbrella term for all those. And this community, or this transgendered movement, represented everything from the best behavior to the worst behavior, because it is all human behavior. And as we started support groups, we realized that a support group has a cycle, and it's a cycle anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And a supportive support group over 5 years has to recruit or find new people to be in their support group at a rate of 1/3 of the membership of the support group per year. In other words, if you have 15 members every 3 years, you need to replace all 15 members 5 at a time. You will always have 1 or 2 people at the top that will continue on and get in there and help that support group sustain itself. But if they don't recruit or look for and do the outreach to find others like themselves and things like this in that circle or that circular thing, that support group will fade. Today, we are losing a support group that was in Indianapolis, Indiana, for 30 years, and it was that support group and that age bracket that support group was paying attention to did not include the young people, did not include the youth that was in high school, did not include the youth that was in its 20s, did not promote the acceptance of that because it was controlled and became controlled by old white men wearing dresses instead of trying to look upon it. Now, that particular support group was part of the Kindred Spirits movement. Their leadership came through Kindred Spirits. The support group in Greece came through Kindred Spirits. If you neglect to get out and to speak at schools and institutions or events and things like this for your causes or political beliefs, you're going to shrivel up and fade away into the night. And this is the reason why, when I wrote the definition, I made it so broad that everybody is capable of being transgendered. What has happened to it today, it's segmented and said, well, wait a minute. You've got to pass to be transgendered. You got to be, or if you're not passing, or if you're not assimilating into a binary behavior, then you are gender non-binary. Well, gender non-binary is a great thing for youth because they can play with it, be it, move on. It's not tied to it. It isn't going to dominate their life, maybe, or maybe not. But they are not willing to accept the fact that that is transgender behavior. Same thing with Two-Spirit. They can adopt it, but again, they want their own definition. So as this community continues to grow, it becomes more apparent that we need some form of legal recognition for our social behavior. And most of the transgendered people in the past, 30 years ago, once they became part of the binary system that represented their masculine side or their feminine side and found that acceptance and went hiding in that new closet, they walked away from the community that needed them the most to be the role models, the elders, and the teachers for that community. And the persons who have not walked away, which I've had very heavy personal influence on, was a person who didn't particularly care for the International Foundation for Gender Education because they didn't feel that they really wanted to do what we were doing at that time. They felt that they were looking for an organization that would support the research that they wanted to do. And they were a student at Harvard University School of Government. And so one afternoon, this particular person called me up and said, I got to talk about these feelings and these emotions, and I'm way out of balance here. They didn't know that, but they came and they sat in my office for about an hour and a half. And I said, Myra, this is what you can do that would fill the hole and the need that we as a community has to have. A political, legal entity that is ours, that we can identify with. So Myra Kinsley says, I can take up that challenge. She found support in a person who was, her last name was Johnson, part of Johnson & Johnson in Chicago, who financially backed her to develop in the National Transgender, whatever it is, I can't remember right now, but Myra went to Washington, D.C., used the gay, lesbian, bisexual task force at the time, now it's the lesbian bisexual task force, as a base to work from to bring NTC, whatever her name is, but it was through my influence that she took up the path to understand that the transgendered community needed to have the research that needed to be done and the legal support that was also being looked at from the task force. At that time, the task force was so far ahead of that group that they called the Human Rights Commission, and the Human Rights Commission was dominated by a lesbian who would not believe in the cause of the transgendered movement, did not see the need because of the HIV time of the 70s or the 80s, and poo-pooed the idea where the task force did see the need through their annual conference. My mind is trying.
What year was this? Yvonne, any idea?
Oh, I know exactly what year it was. It was 1988.
Okay.
Okay. And it was 1990 that we had representation at the Creative Change gathering in Detroit, Michigan. And we actually had the IFG actually had a booth there, along with our magazine Tapestry. We didn't change the name to Transgender Tapestry until later, which actually helped establish in the pecking order the word transgendered. This was done through multiple people being very much involved, many of them coming through the Kindred Spirits porthole, either at that time or later, to realize that this community needed to have this triad of involvement of mind, body, and spirit, or the idea of legal, social, governmental, spiritual, healthy, whatever, these different elements, and they needed to fit into the world society in such a way that we will move past the stigmatization. Now, that stigmatization started 3,000 years ago. And we have to look at our transgendered history as saying, again, 3,000 years ago, you were a person of transgendered experience. What did that represent in your tribe? And again, it's the healer, the magician, the physician, the thing, that person that's outside of the binary, or the artist, or whatever that particular group was. And because of that, they were demonized in order to promote what today is that we call religion. And it is the reason why, and the greed in that of religion, that we based our society on a pyramid of masculine dominant power dominance, and we are in that mode today, and they would not particularly adhere to the transgendered person, and the transgendered person now is being so demonized, and government is setting up today to try to erase a behavior that's thousands and thousands of years old, but they're going to wipe it out. They're going to say that tomorrow you are a non-person. Now, how that affects me personally is that I honorably discharged from the United States Air Force. I use the facilities at the VA. Tomorrow, my privileges that I put my life in line to protect and defend the Constitution of this United States is no longer valid, because I am a transgendered person and I am no longer worthy of being a human being in this country under this administration. Am I angry? A little bit. Do I fight within myself not to use the magic that I have to take vengeance on these things? No. I feel opposite. I feel that this anger needs now to be focused and motivated to create change. It needs to know and acknowledge the love that we have as transgender people, or gay people, or whatever, and we have allies, and bringing that into the fold to where, again, we were working in the 90s to eliminate all these wonderful stigmas that we thought we had. We were bringing back, in the early turn of the century, an item of self-esteem, because we were being recognized. We were just too damn successful at it. Now, again, we are representing a world threat to the religious community. If you look at what Islam is doing through their belief system and throwing gay men off rooftops, stoning transgendered people in Africa, beheading people in Malaysia and in the East, or in the Islamic belief systems. And here in the United States, this conservative movement is destroying good spiritual people because they're being forced to make a decision to accept or not accept equality. Equality cannot exist as long as his religious beliefs and anger is out there to destroy it, because they are threatened by free will. They are threatened through the use of rights. They realize that a transgender person has more to do with body imaging, presentation, and things like this, to try to conform to binary behavior. That's what they want. We're trying to do it, but yet they will kill us for trying to adhere to what they feel that they want us to behave like in society. So in the meantime, they are dehumanizing us and trying to erase the work that we're doing within our community that represents now that we have people like Myra Kinsley, who is doing research and being able to say, this is the number in the United States. We know that we have an estimated close to 14,000 serving actively in our military. We know that we have pretty close to 200,000 Americans who are veterans of the military experience, who are being targeted and being denied medical service because they are transgendered. We have a battle that's in front of us, and the solution to the battle is to take all this education or all this publicity about the transgendered person and starting to come out and to teach. We're not the victim. We're just a piece of the political action that makes other people comfortable by bringing up the most uncomfortable thing that they can think about. And the person that's standing next to them could be a person of transgendered experience, and they will never know it.